And so please give your support to Flyballers Netball Club. Most of the players hail from the St. John's Rural West constituency, and we wish them well. Of course, the Hoppers FC, who are participating as Dunbar crew in the ABF Super 40 League, continues to do well. They continue to be sponsored by yours truly, providing refreshments at each game. And I'm always happy to sponsor anything that comes out of St. John's Rural West. And my relationship with the Hoppers Football FC continues to grow by leap and by bounds. In fact, it is my plan to also donate a goalpost. I happen to have taken a visit to the area and realized that they only have one goalpost at the complex, and so I've already sought an estimate of cost to get a second goalpost done. I'm giving an estimate so far about $2,200, so I'm hoping that somebody will better that. I'm trying to get the best for my buck. And so, as I said, I continue to look out for the interests of my community. And I think this is what representation is all about. And this did not just start a year ago, 2 years ago, even 5 years ago. I've been doing what needs to be done to help my community since 1992, and I'm proud of that. And I continue to work towards that objective. I'm happy to report to the people of Antigua and Barbuda who saw a video surface with the conditions of a gutter just off College Street, Green Bay, that is west of the Green Bay Primary School, where the residents for over 3 years have been enjoying a condition of some nasty gutter water that accumulate outside their homes, where they have to step over and make their way wherever they're going. And so I got to a point where I thought enough was enough. I had previously reached out to senior persons at Public Works, and nothing was done. And this was done more than a year ago, perhaps almost 2 years ago. And I couldn't imagine that the problem had not been sorted out. In fact, they had fixed a section of the upper part of the road, and I really thought that they had completed the project. But having gone there the other day just to have a look, I recognized that the situation was dire for the residents. And so I circulated this video, and I must say that the video was circulated on the 11th of June, and by June 15th, when I went to the location, the work had restarted in earnest and had been extended to an area further down that also needed urgent repairs. So it seems as Public Works is now in the area proper, and the residents will get some relief. And it's just unfortunate that this is the kind of action we have to take here in Antigua and Barbuda in order to get some attention, especially for St. John's Rural West. I continue to wonder what is it that we have done to the government, particularly the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party government, to cause them to treat us in this this shabby way, where we just seem to be the child of a lesser god. And so we continue to be challenged in every area of the community. I continue to drive around to see what is going on. And the conditions I'm meeting are just awful. Several areas of Hutton, the Hutton community, several of the by roads. Today I decided to take a drive, through the by roads in the area, just immediately west of where I live, just off Buckley Street. And they are in awful condition. Many of the roads need gutters for the water to run. Water is accumulating in several areas in these trenches or pockets, where the road is in a state of disrepair. And so I am hoping that the time will come when we can get some help in this area. And I will see to it. That is why I've embarked on this mission, to ensure that my community gets representation, gets taken care of. And so as the representative of the people, if so much can be done with me being ordinary Joe Blow, ordinary citizen Anderson Carty, I want the people of Antigua and Barbuda and my community to realize that what I would accomplish if I am voted into office, if they choose to give me that mandate to represent them, I will spare absolutely no effort to ensure that our community is better taken care of. The work on Labalali Hill Lablali Road, as a matter of fact, because we have Lablali Hill. For persons who do not know, we actually have Lablali Hill and we have Lablali Road. And so we're speaking of Lablali Road. That is still in a state of disrepair. Some materials were brought and thrown on the road and given a little roll, but that is not sufficient. The road needs to be paved. If there's a possibility of it being wider, made a little wider, those are issues that must be addressed. And so I'm keeping my eye on that space, and so I'm watching what will be happening in the next 4 weeks before I go, and I am going to do another shot of that road to see whether or not some further ease can be brought to the residents of that area. And so that is important to me. And so many continue to ask, what an independent candidate can do. And so I like to use the opportunity to just repeat to them some of the things that I've already done as citizen Anderson Carty and not the representative. We had representation on both sides of the divide. We've had a prime minister. We've had several senators who represent us and should be speaking for us, and they are not able to get very much done. I spoke about a constituent who needed lights to have her road lit up. In fact, living directly within the neighborhood where Senator Lewis lives, and what that area is called Hutton Hill, I suppose. And so she had gone to the senator, I'm told, to seek his assistance. And he sent her to APA and to say to her, go to APA and inquire and let me know how things work out. I, on the other hand, when I heard her story, I immediately took up the phone. I got in touch with the people in charge of the electricity division, that is Mr. Andre Matthias, had a personal conversation with him. He connected me with a Mr. Fleming, the person who's responsible for that area. And I was happy that a matter of 2 weeks later, my constituents called me to say that she came home from work and was so delighted to see the area was very well lit. And so I say thank you to Mr. Matthias, Mr. Fleming and his team for carrying out this assignment in very quick time, bringing relief to my constituents. That is what a candidate that loves his community can accomplish. I also spoke of a water main that was required at the Hoppers FC playing field for many years, even while the United Progressive Party was in power. And they were not able to get a water main into the ground. When it came to my attention and they asked for my assistance, Samuel, within a matter of a day, 24 hours, I got a phone call to meet the workmen down at Hoppers FC ground to determine exactly where I wish the main to come into the grounds from. I proceeded there and met with the crew, Mr. Edwards and the workmen. In fact, 3 or 4 of them were actually from the very area, and they very enthusiastically had the water main run into Hoppers. So at this moment, in fact, it's my intention to get the bathroom facilities down there going, because they built the structure. It is not covered. It's a stand. Underneath has provision for bathrooms. No bathrooms have been put in. It's still an empty structure, quite dirty and needs to be cleaned out. So it is my intention to look at that project and have it a situation created where persons who go to the venue can have use of the bathroom facilities. So I say to them, that is what a person who loves his community can accomplish, and what the other persons who have represented us have not accomplished. They are representing parties who have been in power. The fixing of the gutter along the stretch of Federation Road, we know how that was. It was uncovered, there was steel sticking up. I repeatedly brought that to the public attention via another radio program, and within a short space of time, a week or two, work was done. And to this day, the gutters are covered, the steel are no longer a danger to the community. That is what an independent candidate who cares for his community can do. I remember a few years ago as well, a constituent from Five Island reached out to me about a leaky roof and the AC not working at the clinic at Five Island. I raised hell about it, And I was told within 2-3 weeks the situation had been rectified. That is what an independent candidate who cares for his community can do. The erection of the lights at King George, person would have heard me on another program as well, night after night, where Thursday nights after Thursday night, speaking about those lights just lying idly around. And eventually, within a short space of time again, those lights were erected. So we now have night lights at the King George V grounds. Again, that is what an independent candidate can do who cares for his community. Advocacy. We also talk about many other things that have been accomplished. Cleaning of the area. I've done clean several sections of the community using my own resources because I care for the community. We talk about the Grace Green Community Center, the old center. It was in a dilapidated condition, needed repainting. The roof, we had trees growing on the roof. The interior was not the nicest, and we were having meetings in there. It was not a welcoming sight. And I had the entire building, inside and outside, renovated. The roof repainted, the trees removed from the roof. Of course, in addition to that, I donated some windows. Unfortunately, we have not been able to put them in yet. They're sitting there. In fact, there were 14 windows, and unfortunately, somebody walked with 6 or 8 of them. And so I intend, in short order, to get that project completed with the replacement of the windows. That is what an independent candidate can do. The Empire Cricket Club, for years, without sponsorship for years, Coach Ian Tittle and his team struggling to get support for gears and equipment for the cricket team. And I stepped in and I sponsored Empire Cricket Team for over a period of 2 years. That is what an independent candidate can do to assist his community. The Halcyon Steel Orchestra wanted to start a youth academy to train our young pan players, to groom them for entry into the steel orchestra. And my assistant was sought, and I was able to order and receive over 60 pairs of pan sticks to be used by the orchestra youth initiative in due course. I'm not sure if anything has happened with that as yet, but I do have those pan sticks to donate to my constituency. And so again, that is what a representative or an independent candidate who cares for his community can do. The Hoppers ground in particular, I have entered into a contract with Mr. Padmore Irish to maintain the grounds whenever it needs cutting. The president of Hoppers, Miss Gwyneth Salmon, or Tamale Ziggy Thomas, or George Sauer Dublin, they just place a phone call to me, and I call Mr. Irish. Mr. Irish goes there, cut the field, and then he calls me, and immediately he's paid. That is what an independent candidate can do for his constituency because he loves his community. Over the last few years, persons know of my sole sponsorship of the Grace Green Community League, Football League, which is ongoing. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we were not able to have the league for 2 years. But as I have earlier announced, the league is coming back. We will be using this opportunity to have an under 21 where we honor Judah Manuel Bowers. And so this is what an independent candidate is prepared to do to assist his community because he loves his community. I want to speak of my activity today. I was happy to accept invitation. Today was a great and wonderful day for me in my community. I was invited to attend the Green Bay. Let's start with the Five Islands Primary School graduation, which was held today at 10 o'clock. And so I had this opportunity to engage with my community family, just to be among them and to honor the passing out of our graduates, young graduates from the area who are now making their way to secondary school. And so they celebrated under the theme, their motto, Perseverance to Success. And so I use this opportunity to wish all of the graduating class of the Five Islands Primary School all the very best as they take the next step in their life, a time of learning. And I believe that they will be successful. We will continue to pray for their success. And so I had the pleasure of making a contribution, a donation to the graduation exercise. And that is what an independent candidate who loves his community will do for the children of his community. Also, the Green Bay Primary School also held their graduation exercise today, and I was specially invited as well, at 2 o'clock at the Green Bay Moravian Church. In fact, that is where the school started many years ago. And so it was nice to return to that venue, and I must commend the church and the fundraising committee that raised the necessary funds to repair the roof of the church. I sat in there today for the first, looking at a very beautiful fully refurbished roof. It is a beautiful edifice, and so I commend the committee. I must say, I have a promissory contribution that I have to deliver, because I remember being contacted sometime last year by the chairperson, and I did give a commitment to make a donation, but there was really little follow-up. I lost her number, and so that donation will be made in due course to that community church. It sits right on my street. In fact, a part of my childhood, gone there on a few occasions, and so I'm always happy as an independent candidate to contribute to my community in any way. And so at the Green Bay Primary School graduation, I had the opportunity to address the graduates, and in particular to make a contribution to 2 special needs children that attends the school. Young Warner, a name, I don't want to forget a name, so I make sure I walk with the program. And so it was Janine Warner and Nathaniel Higgins. And these are 2 young students from the community who are specially gifted. And so I was asked to make a presentation to them of 2 tablets valued at 900 EC each. They have a keyboard and carrying case, and they're SIM card ready, top of the line. And so I was happy to have expended my funds, my personal funds, that is, to assist these 2 special needs persons. And so we had a great day today. I look at the future of our community and say that it is bright, but we have to create the enabling environment for them to prosper and to realize their dreams and aspirations, and to have something for them to look forward to for the future. And so we are going to rebuild our community with or without any government administration when I am given the mandate to represent them in the halls of Parliament and to defend the gates of my community. And so I look forward to that opportunity to serve my people with dignity and with honor. I also want to bring attention to our young Hurricane Power, a young runner from 5 Islands, the 3,000-meter long-distance champion Hannah Charles, who now attends the Antigua Girls High School. She is the 2022 Interschool 3,000-meter champion. She's also the 2022 Hurricane Power 10K champ. And she's also the 2021 Running Paradise 10K champ. And so she is an athlete for the future that we have to look forward to. She is representing well, and she will be representing us in Suriname on July 2nd at the CARICOM Heads of Government 10K run. So she will be on show. In addition to that, you can see a preview of her talent at YASCO on June 25th and June 26th, when the Antigua and Barbuda National Athletic Championship will be held on that day. And so I look forward to attending and giving support to young Hannah Charles from my constituents, a proud representative of our community. I also want to advertise the 2nd annual summer camp presented by the Cyclone Basketball Club, which is a club that is managed or founded by Coach Oslin Gregory. He and his team has been working. Last year, the camp was attended by over 100 young residents, boys and girls. And so they are putting on their second edition of the camp this year, and it will take place from the 8th of August to the 22nd. The ages 6 years to 16 years old, and it will be held at the Green Bay Primary School. So this is starting August 8th to the 22nd. The second annual summer camp put on or presented by the Cyclone Basketball Club. To reach Coach Gregory, 770-3789, 770-3789, or 723-9029. 723-9029. And it is free. Admission to the summer basketball camp is free for the residents, citizens and residents of the community. So parents, please, an opportunity to have your kids participate in some wholesome sporting and lifestyle activities during this second annual summer camp put on by Cyclone Basketball Club, Green Bay Primary School, 8th to 22nd. Additionally, there will be a summer football camp as well, held by Cutting Edge Football Academy. And this is masterminded by Vincent Nabu Samuel from the area, former coach of Hoppers and Empire, a deaf security coach in his own right. And so his academy, Cutting Edge Football Academy, will be hosting kids ages 4 to 15. And his camp will start July 4th and run to July 15th. 2 weeks, Monday to Friday for 2 weeks, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And so persons who are interested can contact Nabu Samuel, 780-6509. And this camp is for boys and girls. It is $150 per week, or $300 in total for the 2 weeks duration. And it will take place at the Antigua and Barbuda Football Association Development Center at Painters. So please give Nabu a call for those parents who are interested in their kids playing some football for the summer, boys and girls, 780-6509. And there's also an additional constituent who is holding a camp, a basketball camp. That is Mahija David Della Davis, who's my neighbor. He'll be holding an under 17 summer camp, basketball summer camp, boys and girls. This will be held at the JSC Sports Complex. It will be from the 8th of August to the 20th of August. And it will run in the afternoon from 2:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. So this is starting again August 8th to the 20th at the JSC Sport Complex, boys and girls under 14, from 2:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. in the afternoon. $300 all inclusive. $300 all inclusive for 2 weeks. And you will be your kids will be well fed. They will be well taken care of. They will have exercise. They will have, they will facilitate sessions with counseling. And so you will have that wholesome young boy, young girl for the future. And so you can contact Mahija Della Davis at 721-2264. 721-2264, and this is open to persons from any area of Antigua and Barbuda, JSC Sports Complex. And so, as I indicated earlier, we're looking forward to the Anderson Carty Grace Green Under 21 Football League, July 2nd to 22nd. So there'll be so much happening in our community. We're bringing back the pride. This is what I intend to do, right? Bringing back the pride to our community by working with the youngsters to assist them in harnessing and showcasing their talents. And so additional information will be shared in the media over the next 2 weeks or week and a half regarding the Anderson E. Carty Grace Green Under 21 Football League. I'm currently working on replacing the lighting at Hoppers. In fact, I had contributed to fixing them a couple of years ago when we shifted the league down there for a few weeks, and the lights were non-functional. We had, as we do now, representative, but they were just never interested in ensuring that our community was looked after. So I had replaced the lights then at my cost, and so I intend to do the same thing in preparation for the league. So I have a gentleman, I've engaged a member of the community to go there tomorrow and to do whatever is necessary to give me an assessment and to let me know what is needed in terms of fixture, wires, bulbs, whatever it is. And I've already made contact with my source to get those bulbs, whatever is needed to get that those lighting sorted out. Again, we've had a representative that we've elected to office who have simply been missing in action. I'm looking forward, of course, to my next outing with the kids of my community, which is the Grace Green Preschool and Child Care Center graduation on June 30th. And so that is something I'm looking forward to. I'll be making a special award to the top boy who is 4 going on 5, and so I'll be looking for a very special something for him so that he can have it in his forward step next level to primary school in his education. And so I'm always excited to be among my community family and to make whatever contribution I'm called upon to do. And so we have had the absence of a representative for several years in MP Londell Benjamin. And so I continue to ask myself, what is the job description of the MPs? Do they know what their job is? Did the head of cabinet, the prime minister, lay out to them, this is what you're expected to do when you're elected? Because it seemed to me that they either do not know or they simply do not care, or both. And perhaps, Samuel, you can come in here and let us talk about the job description and role of the MP when elected to office. Give me your take on that, because somebody seemed not to understand their role.
Basically, a member of parliament given an office in government is a servant of the people.
Of his community.
And specifically, if he's given a responsibility as to a ministry, he would function in the interest of all Antiguans and Barbudans.
Well, let's see.
But I also say that if you have a specific community, what you must do is that you have to treat that community like if it's your home.
Right. So right, exactly. So tell me, share with me what you believe some of the things a representative should be doing as the person who's elected and is paid.
The very first thing a representative
I'm learning here because I'm confused.
The very first thing a representative should do is to always be in contact with people in the community. Regular meetings.
So we say to consult with your constituents at intervals.
That's a must. And during the course of those meetings, it's the case that you want to hear from them, because it's not you telling them what you want. They've got to tell you what they want. They've got to tell you the problems. They've got to tell you the things that they're satisfied with, the things that they're dissatisfied with, and the things that they can do, or you as a representative can do, to uplift your community. You've got to show, empathy, total involvement. You've got to treat every individual special. They should not be a class. When anyone stands before you, you see a man or a woman, not class of people. You've got to ensure that you take all information as it relates to issues in your constituency
to cabinet
to ensure that you get results. You've got to be very forceful. You've got to ensure that the vulnerable in your community are taken care of, you've got to give them special treatment. You've got to look at the infrastructure in your community. You've got to look at education. You've got to look at health. Even though you're not the health minister, you're not the education minister, even though you're not responsible for infrastructure, you've got to look at those things and be forceful to ensure that those are the kind of things that leads the way in terms of your community development. And when it comes to employment, you need to ensure that your people are employed and gainfully employed. You've got to look at proper housing, general infrastructure. You've got to ensure that there are social programs
for the young and the elderly.
Yes, that will uplift the people in your community. You've got to ensure that you embark on programs that can assist people in terms of their personal development. And significantly, you've got to ensure that you're able to bring your community together as one community where everybody looks out for everybody.
I thank you for your wise advice, Samuel, because these are exactly the same things that I would say. And so as you are speaking and I'm writing, I'm making notes, I'm assessing the Honorable Londell Benjamin and on all points. Consult with constituents at intervals. Samuel, since the good gentleman has been elected as the MP for the area, there has been zero consultation. You hear what I'm saying? Zero consultation. I'm aware that he has met at his branch office with his ALP branch members. This gentleman has never held a community meeting. The only time that he has been present at an engagement that you could call a community get-together to address an issue was that meeting I spoke about last week when the skaters were skating in the basketball arena at the new community center. And it was on the initiative of Jason Mudman Shaw contacting me, and I sending out an invitation to meet that he came to that meeting. You see? Apart from that, our representative has not been present and to consult with us.
So nothing to look for in terms of social development?
Nothing. I go to hear from the people as to their problems and what needs to be addressed. 0. 0%. Total involvement, there have bin no involvement. 0. Fail again. Treat constituents equally special. No, I don't know what he does for the persons that are part of his branch or persons who may be die-hard Labour Party. I don't know if he does things for them privately.
But you're representative of all the people.
Right. And you said treat constituency extra special, equally special. We've had zero treatment, no treatment, nothing special, no treatment at all, no concern shared. And remember, this is a representative of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, and so it is an indictment on them. Ensure you take information to Cabinet about the issues in the community and to ensure result. We are not aware that ever happened. And for a representative, he does that, you will know. You know, politics is played. So I'm pretty much comfortable saying that has never happened. Being forceful and aggressive in putting forward the needs of your community and what needs to be done. 0 again. Take care of the vulnerable, the poor, those who are in support, those living below the poverty line. Nothing for them. Nothing for them. Our representatives have been missing in action. The infrastructure. When do we hear? When last have we heard, or when have we ever heard a public pronouncement by the Honorable Londell Benjamin about what is happening with the infrastructure in our community. In fact, the last time I've heard this gentleman speak was when he called us an idiot in Parliament. That was the last public speech that I heard from him. Right? The amount of idiots that are in rural West. Other than that, I have not heard the gentleman speak on the national radio, hardly in the House of Parliament. For us, he does not speak up. So 0 again. We understand the issue of the displacement or the planned displacement of the Five Islands Primary School, which has now been adjusted, thankfully. He was not present. He didn't make any statement about it. We have not heard from him on it. The health issue in our community, the gutters, the condition of the road, he has not said anything to anyone. He's not spoken up for us. We have not heard him. He has not come to us to ask. We do not see him driving around to look at the situation of what is happening in the community. So again, he scores 0. Employment. I am told that there are few persons, not very many, connected with him personally who he has gotten employment for. And to be honest, I've heard that there are very few, not a lot, maybe a handful or a little more, who has gotten employment through the representative. Proper housing. The issue of proper housing had never been addressed. No assessment has been done. He has not spoken to us to let us know that he intends to do this. Nothing. Social programs for young and elderly. The guy don't even participate in those that are organized by other people. The very few that take place, we don't even see him. He doesn't make a contribution. Wow. Personal development initiative, you don't seem to speak to him for him to encourage you that you can go to the National Development Bank, you can, the entrepreneur, the Prime Minister Entrepreneurial Fund, the Scholarship Fund, the Board of Education. Nothing at all this gentleman does to help in the personal initiative of the young or the old. Bring the community together. It never happened. For him, it's always about the red politics, you see? And so having regard to an overall assessment of our representative, Donald Landell Benjamin, I don't know there can be any lesser grade than an F. But if there could be, he would qualify for that. So if there was a Z grade, that is where he would really fit. To place the emphasis on the fact that there's been no effort, so you get F for effort. He's done nothing. And so, as I said, a F is sounding a little too good because remember, you get an F, Samuel, usually if you attempt the exam or if you attempt the assignment. And so, for a person who does not attempt the assignment at all deliberately, and remember he's getting paid, then an F, I think, is too good to give to him. You understand? I think he insults the F at the end of the day. And so the question now becomes for me, who signs his timesheet? He has abandoned his job. Senator Landell Benjamin has abandoned his job as the MP for the area. But yet he's obtaining salaries and emoluments. And I think this is being done by deception and fraud because it gives the appearance that he's working when he's paid. It means somebody submitting his timesheet to the Treasury. And that cannot be right. And it says to me that it is the Honorable Prime Minister, who's the head of cabinet, who is signing that pay sheet for MP Benjamin at the end of each month. And the Prime Minister really need to revisit that in the interests of Antigua and Barbuda and the constituents of the area. Is it that his salary and emoluments become automatic? Our salary emolument become automatic because we elected on a party ticket. Is that how it works? You know, my other political opponents, they're now coming out of the woodwork with donations and contributions, and today in particular to the graduating students, only because an election is imminent, shortly close by. And so we have Senator Gail Christian, who follows on the heel of Senator Landell Benjamin, not even finding the time to attend. I don't know that she's on the island, but she sends a surrogate. Surrogate comes, and I simply think that she's here, but she's too ashamed, given the action of her party, the failings of the MP, and she following on his heels. I think she's just too ashamed to face the people. And so she sent a surrogate to the graduation exercise, both graduation exercise, to bring bearing gifts. You know, we have not seen her in years participating in the life of our community. Only that she lives in Five Island, and we see her drive through the village from time to time. I also learned that she had been over the years giving food packages like to a few elderly persons, and so I must give her that. I don't know it as a fact, but I'm told that she did do that at Christmas time and on the occasions when Labour Party give out a few stuff. But apart from that, she has really not been active in the life of the community. But suddenly, they're out of the woodwork and they're sharing goodies with the people. And so here we are talking about the mockery, going back to our watchword, the sham, the travesty, the farce that is now going on, trying to fool the people again with promises that they care for them and about what is happening in the community for years. The suffering of my community family, they have ignored it. And as I said, they are so ashamed to show up at graduations and other community activities. And so surrogates are standing in their stead. And so I'm asking, has anyone yet heard Senator Gail Christian condemning MP Benjamin, the MP, the Prime Minister himself as well, or her party for failing our community miserably for the last 8 years and counting? Is it not true that the only thing that is likely to happen on her election is that she will benefit from being in office and receiving a salary and emoluments just as MP Londell Benjamin? So electing her to office will only be to her benefit. I don't know that anyone is convinced and otherwise in my community unless they are blinded by the red color. And so it is very unfortunate. I mean, her ministerial salary, free electricity to MPs and cabinet ministers, the huge per diem that ministers receive when they travel. They walk around the stores in St. John's and many persons offer them items for free. They don't have to buy. And at the end of the day, the retirement benefits at the level of their ministerial salaries, you know, upon winning political office. And of course, they wield great power. And so they cut side deals to empower themselves and those lackeys campaigning hard to get them into office. In spite of the fact that they have seen the egregious case of advantage that have been taken of my community by the very Antigua-Barbuda, the Labour Party. And so this is serious time. And I'm saying to Senator Gail Christian that she's aligned herself for a second time with the wrong set of people. I think if she wants to make a contribution, she needs to step away from the Antigua-Barbuda Labour Party, condemn the action of her government, her party, and MP Benjamin to show that she's with us and she's not with them. But it is clear to me that that will never happen. That is wishful thinking. That is truly wishful thinking. And so I am just saying, we just imagine that persons have the nerve, given the failure of the Labour Party, to come back to our community and to suggest that electing them to office will make our life better. 8 years, this government administration, the senator has had influence with the Prime Minister and the Labour Party, and nothing has happened to us. For us, what is going to make her be able to convince her government, if she's elected, to look about us? Let us not be fooled. It will not it will not happen. We have the example before us. Let us not be fooled. They think us fool, you know. They think us fools. And so it is the same playbook that they bring out again to try to fool us like they did with Londell Benjamin. We elected him to office, and this is where we are. The same thing is going to happen, people of St. John's Rural West. And so I'm asking you, please, do not be lulled into voting for Senator Gail Christian based on the empty promises and the hope that she tried to speak about. And to be honest, the UPP alternative Senator Richard Lewis is also not much better in terms of showing that he cares enough for the people for him to be voted into office. The senator strikes me as very selfish, eccentric, uncaring based on his actions or otherwise his inaction as a senator with influence over the years. And you heard me speak about that neighbor of his who asked to get some assistance with the street light, and he sent her to go to APA where she could not even get an audience. She would not have been able to get an audience. And so he shows that he does not care. In my view, he's an elitist. He does not socialize with the people of the community. I'm not making this up. Ask them. Many persons tell me they hear the name Senator Richard Lewis, but they are not familiar as to whom he is. And so he will perhaps, and I say perhaps, win a fair portion of the votes from the UPP party diehard living in the area, who really cares little or nothing about who runs on the party ticket. But he will never be able to convince the remainder of us, the independent voters strong, that he's the best man for the job. He simply is not. The majority of the community will agree, I am sure. And so this is not a personal attack. As I said, I hold both senators in very high regard. They are articulate. They are bright individuals. They have capacity. I admire them in their personal careers, in their respective fields. But I'm speaking now as persons who want to put themselves in the position to represent you. They are not fit for this office. They have not showed that they care. They have the capacity, but they lack the ability to care and to connect. That is what I'm saying. And so at the end of the day, I am putting my hand up as the best option for the St. John's Rural West, because I have shown by my history, my work, my action, that I care for my community family and will continue to do so as long as there's breath in this body. And so we continue to have a situation where there are food vouchers that are being used by the Labour Party hacks. And in particular, they're being given out by, here who's giving them out, Mr. James Tanny Rose, the Senator Gail Christian herself, and Mr. Garfield Sancho Christopher, my good neighbor. And so they're using these $100 voucher to try to pull the wool over the eyes of the constituents. Their own money. So they're giving you back your own money. I've been spending my money for the benefit of the community. I'm not waiting or depending on anybody to give me anything. For my hard-earned dollar, from my pocket, that's how I help my constituents. And so they are using this government program, so sad to see, as a opportunity to cheat in the election. And so I did say last week that is my intention to examine this particular action and to speak to the legal luminaries to see whether or not a case can be brought. Because to identify James Tanny Rose, Mr. James Tanny Rose, a hack for the Labour Party, Senator Gail Christian, who's running for the Labour Party, Mr. Garfield Sancho Christopher, who's known to be a Labour Party stalwart and campaign manager for several persons who run in the area. These are the individuals that I know are giving out these food vouchers. You see? And also I understand Londell Benjamin, the Honorable Londell Benjamin, had at one time been doing so. So why is it that it is the people from the Red Party who is given the opportunity to give out these food vouchers? It says to me that that is cheating. And I'm accusing them, the Labour Party and the candidate in the making, of cheating. And I am going to be speaking to my lawyers in earnest about whether or not a case can be brought. So I think you should be worried. That is cheating. For me, I think what you should do is to, if you want to distribute these vouchers, let it be done by a community organization. If not, give all the candidates in the election or running election some of those vouchers if you want to be above board. So Senator Richard Lewis will get some, Senator Gail Christian will get some, Miss Malika Parker will get some, and Anderson Carty, yours truly, will get some. So if you are sincere about not cheating in this election, then that is how the distribution should go. And so the fact that only Labour Party personnel are distributing them is troubling and represents cheating. And so that is my take on that food voucher program, Samuel, and you can have input on any of the matters I've just suggested.
Well, basically, I'd really like to bring in the song at this point. In terms of democracy,
mockery, yes.
A mockery of democracy, because from my point of view, what should really happen is that everybody should be entitled to get vouchers. You know, everybody in the community. It can be distributed by the JCs, you know, some
Yes,
sort
absolutely.
of organization, whatever. But let's hear Mockery of Democracy.
Mockery of our democracy.
Lawlessness out of hand. And under this constitution, there could be no prosecution. It looks like this constitution is not for the law-abiding man. Only criminals and crooks to get them off of the hook. Good people must have no fun. They have to be on the run, ducking from bandits, bullets and guns. While they're making a mockery of democracy, violating the law with impunity, and some legal entity defends them with alacrity, while they're making a mockery of democracy. International should be disbanded immediately, or charge them all as accomplice for every crime in every country. Cause it look like their only mission is to see the guilty go free, while the victim rights go to waste. Nobody to plead their case. How long would we stand and see democracy going crazy? Oh, how unjust justice is made to be. They're just making a mockery of democracy, violating the law with impunity, and some legal entity defends them with alacrity, while they're making a mockery of democracy. Execute the criminals if they've been on death row too long. It's cruel, unusual punishment. Society shouldn't commit this wrong. You violating their human rights. You're sure to hear some lawyers say, but the victim rights are lost. Why they say justice take its course? Look like them criminal is boss. The guilty rights stay in store, protected under due course of the law. UNC they making a mockery of democracy, violating the law with impunity, and them legal entity defends them with alacrity, while they making a mockery of democracy. If human rights is a real right, it should be extended to everyone, not only used to protect those who are in flagrant violation. The hypocrisy of the system makes the whole thing a big charade. We should let justice take its place and supplying injustice face. Can we see that it's a straight case? The whole thing is in bad taste. Without justice, human rights is waste. Oh my, they making a mockery of democracy, violating the law with impunity, and the legal fraternity. We should let them know urgently to stop making a mockery of democracy. Can
Indeed.
you see they make
Indeed.
a mockery?
Violating the law with impunity, and how unjust justice is made to be by them and their lackeys. The victims' rights are lost. If human right is a right, it should be extended to everyone.
Yes.
And so the songwriter puts it very, very succinctly. And this is what we suffer from here in Antigua and Barbuda. They make a mockery, a sham, a farce of our democracy. where it should be government for and by the people and of the people. And so we have a government of kleptocracy. And so that means a government of theft. And so that is how I describe them. And so we have them at this moment trying to pull a fast one over the whole of the people of Antigua and Barbuda. And so I understand that there are 20 water tanks that has been designated for distribution to St. John's Rural West, a community of over 20,000 persons. And so I understand Senator Gail Christian to be in a quandary as to how she's able to distribute these 20 water tanks. And so I don't know what she's going to do, except I say to her that it may very well be in the interest of any political future and for her to maintain the good name, her good name and that of her family, that she seeks to withdraw. I think that would be the honorable thing for Senator Gail Christian to do, is to withdraw from that party and withdraw her candidacy. Certainly, the image is tarnished in Rural West, even for persons who have supported and voted for the Labour Party. They've been so disappointed, and so many of them are saying, not a chance. It will not happen. They prefer to stay home or give their vote to someone else.
How is it determined that who gets the water tanks?
Well, I think she's in a quandary because 20 for households that are more than perhaps 10,000 households in the area, 20 water tanks. I don't know how that is going to work, but we know how the Labour Party work. You try to find the reddest of the red at election time, and perhaps she is more challenged as to who among the red that will be given these 20 water tanks that I understand would be allocated for distribution in the area. I don't know if you know of any way, any other way it can be done.
That's a serious challenge to distribute 20 water tanks in such a large constituency, because I know for a fact that it has to be that many more people or persons would need the water tank, and some people are going to feel real peeved if they are supporters of the Labour Party to know that they're really in need and they may not be in place to get any at all. You know, and
that's the quandary in which she found she's finding herself.
A kind of, sad situation, really. I know that water tanks are needed, because of the water situation, and I think that we have a clip that we had played in relation to that, and we can't leave tonight without playing that other clip that you've asked me to find for you in terms of
yes, the situation. In fact, that was the next
topic that we're gonna
we'd want to get to. But here's what we have so far. So we have 20 water tanks that is being waived as a part of the election gimmick, the mockery. We have the food vouchers that in the heart of the pandemic, when the people needed them most, they didn't do any for the first year. I think within the second year, a gentleman, I think they said Mr. Rob Barrett of the Epicurean, he made some vouchers available, some monies available, some sort of arrangement with him to give a few. And so now at this stage where some persons are able to help themselves, there still is the challenge, but an election is imminent, and so the government has somehow found some money to use now food vouchers as a part of the mockery and the farce to win votes and to win themselves back in office. And so, as I said, today, I noticed that Senator Gail Christian sent her surrogate to both graduation exercise and distributed prizes and gift certificates. So that is also part of the election gimmicking. And so I'm watching it, and I'm going to be calling them out. I'm going to be calling them out and to show the people what they're doing to try to weave themselves back into office again, where they themselves can become enriched along with their lackeys.
Lest anyone get us wrong, Mr. Carthy, we're happy if individuals who are in need would get
benefit.
these vouchers. They do
Without
benefit,
question.
right? We're happy for that, but there should not be any form of discrimination in terms of how you distribute. You know, it should not be,
Or
and
you
I hope
should
it's not be a case of party support.
Well, the issue is, why are you doing it now? The issue is, it is a part of the mockery. And for me, I am happy that persons are benefiting, and they should take them, and they should give them more. But the point I'm making, do not allow them to think that them doing this because they want to get into office, that they will win your support. This is what I'm saying to the people of Rural West. So I'm happy that they are doing it, that people are benefiting, but people must see the objective as to why they are doing it. Yeah? And that is the issue. It is to get themselves back into office, not because they care. So certainly if you know they were doing it because they care, then you could not be critical of them. But you know it is a part of that mockery, that sham, that farce, to win themselves back into office after they have failed the community.
And it leads us back to the point where elections after elections, political parties tend to do these sort of things.
Yes.
You know, and it's
The
unfortunate.
playbook is the same.
It's unfortunate that people, you know, who should have some common sense, wait until a time like this to say they're helping people or doing things for people. It's too obvious.
But it's been working, so they continue to repeat it. And so the people must say enough is enough. And they cannot use me like no guinea pig and discard me after the election, have me suffer out there in the mire, and then do the same thing a year before the election is imminent. We just cannot continue that political system and to support that, and then they win. They keep winning. You know, suffer us, you know, like the hard years of famine that Egypt saw. And then suddenly a year before the election, then it's the year of plenty. And then we go back into a famine. And they benefit. I mean, if we look at it really, if we look at the wealth that the cabinet of Antigua and Barbuda, the ministers have accumulated, if we have an opportunity to be able to get the information to assess it, when we combine what they have achieved compared to what the nation of Antigua and Barbuda has achieved, I guarantee you, nobody can convince me otherwise, that they have not benefited more millions in terms of making their lives better, the lives of their family better, while the lives of ordinary Antigua and Barbuda has been made worse. They have benefited. All the cabinet ministers have benefited tremendously over the last few years, when we, as the ordinary men and women, have been made to suffer. We cannot allow that to continue. No, we cannot. And so, Samuel, there is an issue that has come to the fore and keeps repeating itself, and that is the issue of child maintenance. And so I've had a constituent who have said to me that she's very concerned, so she reached out to me, and it's a situation where in her own little circle, their raise that is owed by those errant fathers have been allowed to mount up into the thousands of dollars without any intervention of the court or any social services system. And so that is a problem for me. I don't want to see fathers going to jail unless they deserve it. They just turn their backs on their children. But there are some fathers who are trying out there but do not have the means. But what I'm saying, how does the system allow a father to accumulate a raise in the thousands? We're talking about paying $100 or $75 a week. And we have many cases where $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 is accumulated. It means nobody's managing the system. And so if we had a system of proper management and intervention and daily supervision, then what will happen when a father does not pay for 3-4 weeks? It is flagged, and you begin to call him in. The system should allow for him to must come in. Yes, he must come in for an interview. And so, whether it be the bailiff, the police, or a truant officer, whatever, some worker that is out there that now gets in touch with the father, brings him in. And if he doesn't want to come in, then the police then takes certain action because his name is in the court. So a warrant can be issued. He can be summoned by the magistrate. And he come to the family court, a special unit set up. And he explained why he did 3, 4, 6 weeks now he hasn't paid anything. Why wait until it accumulates in such a way that now you have to issue a warrant for his arrest and detention? I mean, isn't that how something's supposed to be properly managed? And then, of course, the poor mother who's trying to take care of the child, the daily expenses and all she has to do, now cannot manage. And then having to go through the system, waiting for the police to issue summons, for him to, and then he ends up in jail. And that is of no help to the child or the mother. So what we need to be able to do is to intervene at a point where it is recognized that the father is not living up to the duty, his lawful duty, after the matter has been filed in the court, to be looking about that child.
Timely intervention.
Right. So we need a system that addresses that. Timely intervention. And so I'm calling on the powers that be, if they're listening. All we need to do is just create, or don't even have to create, because there's so many government workers that you can transfer, train to have this intervention. You need a unit of maybe 6 or 12 persons working vociferously, whether it be from the magistrate court location or from the Ministry of Social Transformation or Social Services unit that is empowered to bring fathers into an office or into an environment where you question them and see what is happening and see whether or not we can avoid the situation of arrears accumulating to this point where you now have to cart them off to jail.
And that's why you're here, Mr. Carter. You're here to help the government.
Absolutely.
Solutions.
Right, solution. I believe in solution. I just don't point out problems.
Yes.
I offer solutions. And certainly if I am in the position to influence change in my community and throughout Antigua and Barbuda, this is something that I will do with urgency. This is something I'm putting out there as my social contract with the people that I will do. I will agitate and advocate for such a system to put in place so that these mothers and these children in particular will now not continue to suffer the indignity of not being able to have a proper meal, or in some cases kids are not able to go to school. I mean, I have the unfortunate experience quite recently where somebody close to me, a young child, was not able to attend school because the errant father did not go in and pay the school fee. And so unfortunately the child had to be out of school for a couple of days until I learned of it, and I had to intervene and take certain measures in order to get the child back into school. And certainly it is troubling, and so it is something that we need to look at very carefully. The United Progressive Party speak about some maintenance of minor program, but I think that needs to be revisited and we looked at. It's good in concept. However, I don't think the logistics suggest that it is a viable program
as to how it will be implemented.
Yes. And the burning issue that we want to look at is the marijuana issue. So ahead of us speaking to that again, we want to play that clip from the Honorable Melford Nicholas, where certain admissions were put out there, where he admitted to the failure of the cabinet of Antigua and Barbuda to give the due and required consideration. And so we're going to play this clip and let the public hear the announcement of failure by the Honorable Melford Nicholas.
One of the areas that should also have come with it was, more public education in terms of the negative effects of an abuse of the substance, for any substance for that matter. Even as one might even think sugar as an innocuous substance, if it is abused, if it's overly consumed, then it can have a negative effect. So there is a need for better public education into that, and of course to fine-tune the policy to ensure that all persons or parties are aware that decriminalization does not mean legalization. So that is an issue, I think, that we have to take a step back and recalibrate and to work with the professionals in terms of how we deal with this. So it may be a contributing factor. We can't say that it is the entire contributing factor, because there are indications as well that some broken families have an effect on the way children see themselves, and they become unable to interact positively in a social environment with others. So there could be a number of factors, but we are not saying that there is not a possibility that this could be a contributing factor. But we have to study this particular area before we can take any concrete and decisive actions. It may have, admittedly it may have. When the matter was looked into and contemplated in the first instance, it was not intended that there should be any wide-scale abuse or expansion of the use of the substance. The idea of decriminalizing the use of marijuana, where young men were found with small amounts of personal use, was then and still is good public policy, simply because the whole idea that young men at the younger age, when they are impressionable or sometimes adventurous, adventurous or curious for them to have the burden of a criminal record, and that follows them throughout their whole life. The idea of removing that, and when I say young men, which are predominantly the major users of the sativa, certainly it affects young women too, but we felt that it was necessary for us to decriminalize. Unfortunately, the decriminalization has been interpreted by a wide swath of the society to mean that it has been legalized. So I think we have to go back and fine-tune that policy.
What an indictment. What an indictment. And so if we listen carefully to what the minister is saying, that they now have to step back, recalibrate, and speak to the professionals. I would have thought, Samuel, and I don't know if you think differently, that the whole idea in moving this policy forward was for them to have looked at it carefully and to determine all the possible impacts, social and otherwise, that such a decision would have on the nation of Antigua and Barbuda. And so when I hear the Honorable Melford Nicholas speak in these terms, I am particularly shocked that it seemed that, and we knew it, we knew that it was a political gimmick, it was a mockery as we speak to tonight. And so he's saying no wide scale abuse was contemplated at the time the policy was implemented. Unbelievable. We know the impact of marijuana, the street value, the fact that our law enforcement officers had been struggling to keep a lid or grip on what was happening with the marijuana sale and distribution and importation. And yet he is suggesting, so there was a demand. It continues to be in great demand. It was in great demand and it is now in greater demand. And he's saying that no wide-scale abuse was contemplated. Samuel, how do you explain that? If you can.
Do you want me to explain that?
If you
can. I? Common sense should tell you that obviously if you're going to free up the herb,
something that is in demand,
in that particular manner, it is going to present some serious problems. The situation is that it was not well thought out, and we see the impact. And now, because of the impact, obviously the government will have to walk back the situation and carefully address this situation as to what 4 plants and what 15
well, it
grams
troubles me that
because everybody who had wanted to use it feel it's a free for all now, and they can just do anything, and you see what's happening with our school children in particular.
And it troubles me, Samuel, that the people in the boardroom who's supposed to be managing in a particular way, that they can come to the public and make these kinds of statements. It is a statement of abject failure, that these guys really do not know what they're doing where this is concerned, or they did not care. And I think it's the latter. They did not care. It was a political gimmickry where to win votes, they just went out there and did it without any consideration for humanity or the people or the impact. And they knew. I mean, these guys been to university, many of them manage different businesses and have been managers and so in successful enterprises. And so when you hear them talk in these terms, you just can only be left with one thing, that they deliberately did this in order to impact the brains of our young children, to keep them out of the electoral process. That is what it was designed to do, because they realized that the youths can impact the political future of Antigua and Barbuda. And things have not been good with the youths, and so you create this situation where you have them get all drugged up, that they do not have any interest in the political life of the nation. And so the mission has been accomplished, but now that there's been an outcry and there's now a greater social impact in terms of the mental health, and the mental health system is being impacted, that is what is forcing them to pay some attention, you know.
Yes, because I've learned today that the mental institution is filled to the brim, you know, and unfortunately, they even have individuals in the prison who should have been at the mental institution.
Yes. So it is now that they're speaking to stepping back, recalibrating, and speak to the professionals. I thought that the professionals ought to have been the first people you speak to in this exercise.
One thing I'll say though, it is good that you can recognize when you make a mistake. Because in some instances, there are blatant mistakes made by governments.
Samuel,
and they don't recognize, or they
Samuel,
fail
it is
to
not,
accept
my
that
brother,
they make a mistake.
It is not a mistake. It was orchestrated. Nobody can convince me. Nobody. Maybe only if the angel Gabriel would come to earth this evening, whether I'm awake or asleep, and tell me otherwise. Nobody can convince me that these so-called intelligent men and women that sit in our parliament or in our cabinet did not know that this would have created widescale abuse in the process. We understand the laws of supply and demand. The demand for marijuana was greater and continues to be greater than the supply because it is an illegal substance. It's still a Class A illegal substance. And so in any case where the demand or the supply rather is suppressed by the laws or law enforcement, demand will continue to be higher. And so they knew when they put this in place that there was a greater demand than what was being supplied. They know that. They know the laws of economics. You see? And so at the end of the day, they cannot convince me that this was nothing near mistake. This was a deliberate act. And they can't prove to me otherwise. So I don't want to say recognize a mistake and now they're changing it. Again, they have realized that the impact, what is driving this conversation, is the impact on the mental health system of Antigua and Barbuda. The students in the classrooms, right? The teachers are speaking of it, the parents are speaking of it, and that is what is now causing them to now come back to it now and give some attention. They were hoping that it would not have happened, but the hen has come home to roost.
One of the things that I asked individuals who are involved in these sort of things. Now you're told that you could have, 4 trees, right? Now, the problem here is that you're allowed, 15 grams?
You know how many grams one tree can create? You know the size that those trees go to?
That is what I am concerned about. How do you work this out?
Yes, Samuel, you tell me, help me. I've been asking the question now. Even if you know those marijuana trees grow to great sizes, right? And so, if the time come when they're ripe and they're ready for harvest, and now you pick them and harvest and put them in your house, where you now end up with 10 pounds of marijuana and police radio, what happen?
Can you say that I got this from 1 or 2 trees? Or is it that you're allowed maybe to plant your trees in sequence? And you only
pick, you pick only 15 grams at a time. You only pick 15 grams at a time.
It's very technical, you know.
What is technical? It is stupidity.
Yes. In the sense that when I heard of it, you know, I said, no, this don't seem practical. Yes. And I've asked individuals who grow their 4 trees, how do you deal with this situation?
Yes.
Because if a policeman come and you, let's suppose you harvest today and whatever process they go through, whatever the police come and meet you in your house with. What happens?
Yes. It is great stupidity.
I don't know. It is good though that they're going to revisit it. That's what I must say, for many reasons.
But I'm still in shock that our parliament, cabinet of Antigua and Barbuda, could get to the stage where they pass such a law to decriminalize that small quantity, but at the same time allow me to have 4 trees that can grow like my mango tree in my yard, right? And then at the end of the day, if I harvest, if I own them, I have the right to have them, and I harvest them now, right? and I put them in my house and the police raid my home, I'm going to jail, you know. Because how do you say to the police that all these were having? The law does not say if you derive whatever from those 4 trees and you're found with them in your house or in your possession, that you will not face legal consequences. It doesn't say that. So how does one explain that? There's no explanation. It is greatest stupidity. And to imagine that we have an attorney general that should be the chief legal officer of the cabinet of Antigua and Barbuda, and nothing is said where this is concerned. More so, the leader of the opposition, forgive me, the political leader of the UPP is an attorney at law. I know they say many of the lawyers love this stuff and they keep a lot of it at their home. And so the political leader of the United Progressive Party is an attorney himself. And so he never spoke to the ignorance of this law. And more important, he never spoke as well that he had a vision of the social impact that this could create on our system, our economic system, our mental health system. They too had announced that they were in agreement and they were going to beat the Labour Party to it, but the Labour Party got ahead of them. And so we have to be concerned in this country about leadership, you know, and where this country is going, you know, and who is going to lead us out of this Egypt, where these are so many plagues that are being forced on us deliberately by the lawmakers, and some of it seemingly supported by the alternative government. And so I am concerned, because they have not or did not speak out when this foolishness was announced. And the way they spoke, they were in full support of the government decision to do this. So who do we turn to?
Have you walked through St. John's lately?
I've walked through Rural West and I've seen the impact, but tell me.
We have more vagrants and drug addicts
on the streets of St. John's.
They can overthrow the army. There's so many.
Oh boy.
And it's quite unfortunate,
right. Yes,
you know.
Yes.
And this is not what any sound-minded person would want to see for your country.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And so it is troubling. And so the decriminalization of a small quantity of this illegal substance has basically significantly impacted my entire community, the mental fabric of my community. The cabinet of Antigua and Barbuda and the main opposition party, I think, are responsible for this situation in the country. And in our inner communities, they have failed the youths and the people of this nation. And so they have had a hand in destroying many young minds and the family structure. Mothers who cannot get their children into rehab centers, including into the Clearview Psychiatric Hospital. And so I've had to deal with several cases for a few of my employer clients who have invited my intervention, where they can't get them to come to work, calling the parents. Most of them are young, so you say, okay, they're impressionable still, and perhaps the parents can assist. The parents come in and they tell you, quite frankly, I've tried to take him or her, to counseling, to a doctor, to Clearview. Some persons have gotten an offer from Crossroads and can't get them to go into rehab. And so that is also a challenge. And so they've unfortunately have to lose their employment. And so these are the kinds of situations that we have in this country. And so I say the soul of this nation has been lost, has been particularly stolen by the politicians. And they have done the greatest damage to the peoples of Antigua and Barbuda. And so where do we turn?
Well, it's a long time coming, but I think the politics in this country will change. It will change. As people, delve deeply into what our political situation is, I think the younger generation will bring about a change in how we deal with politics, how a country is governed, because governing a country is different from politics itself.
Indeed.
And I think people are wising up themselves, and I hope I can live to see the day when people like, my children, your children, can bring about this change.
But Samuel, we have to keep them away.
Antigua
We have to
and
keep them away
Barbuda.
from the marijuana, which is what is destroying the young brain. So if we're not able to do that, then we continue to have a problem with the next generation to come. And that is what is happening. It is the next generation, because they say a generation is 40 years. And so it is this next generation, Samuel, that are being put in this position to just lose their mind, the care of their brain.
But we are the guilty ones.
Without
if
question.
we don't steer them in the right direction.
Mhm.
And that
Train
is
up the
why I
child.
feel that, some of them, because I talk to a lot of young people now, and I realize that a lot of them are getting very wise. Not only from a political point of view, but from a social point of view. They're looking at their lives and they're saying that, we need to bring a change in society.
Yes. They have capacity. Our young people have capacity. I see people in my community, and just opportunities are what they desire. Opportunities to express their prowess, whether it be in sport, business, starting small businesses, just having ideas for entrepreneurial endeavors. And so they're not being presented with, nobody is focusing on helping the community. Nobody. They're about them and trying to get into office, and then they forget the people and they feather their own nest. And so the time has come for that to change, and I intend to do my best to change that. And so while we speak about Clearview Psychiatric Hospital, I understand that the workers were threatened, not getting paid, and could possibly lose their job. And so they were forced back to work in the same conditions that they were complaining about and had gone on industrial action.
And that's not true democracy.
Cannot be true democracy. And so these workers, fear has been driven into the heart of these workers by the powers that be. And certainly I hope that all those Clearview workers will know that they have to vote for a change, you see, in order to make their circumstances different.
It's so weird that, when things get hot and good, time runs out on us.
Indeed.
It's just
indeed.
about,
Yes.
we have just about 4 or 5 minutes left.
Yes, perhaps a little more, unless my clock is wrong. Or just about 5 minutes, yes. And so I understand, on a final topic before we close, I understand there is industrial unrest now at the ONDCP. Organization of National Drug Laundering and Control. And so there are some health and safety issues that I understand have been plaguing the building where the administrative staff work for the last 3 years. And the building, I am told, is not a healthy environment. And so the administrative staff have been working 4 hours per day, a short work day. And here's what, they have their bargaining agent, the Antigua Trades and Labor Union. I understand the president, Mr. Wiggly George himself, is the representative. And so they, I understand, are very dissatisfied with the representation. But I want to say to them, they cannot expect anything better when you have union and government being one and the same. And so they work for the government, they are government employees, and so you have a direct agent of the government working in the union, and so they will not get any place with the Antigua Trades and Labor Union. So sad to say. There's also a voice message that was circulating by the around that all of us heard, the Assistant Director of Operations making some serious threats to the lives of individuals, some very nasty remarks, and he was brought before the Disciplinary Committee and convicted. And he was issued a suspension,
they called it.
and they see it as a slap on the wrist. A press release surfaced in the newspapers from the staff saying that they will not work with this Assistant Director of Operations, and they thought that the penalty or the punishment meted out was not sufficient, given that this is an organization that should operate at the highest standard. There's a high legal, ethical, ethical and moral standard that persons employed by the ONDCP, they must function and operate at, and this has been compromised in their view, and I believe the public's view is the same. It is my suggestion that it's perhaps not in the interest of public administration for the individual in question to continue in that role within the organization. So I would therefore suggest that a transfer perhaps to another government agency where he would have less impact, or his conduct in the past would have less impact, may very well have to be considered in light of the egregious and unlawful nature of the reported conduct. And of course, the fact that he is being convicted by the disciplinary committee that was empaneled. And so these are considerations for the cabinet and the head of the organization. But we suspect that things are going to break if they're not fixed in the near future within that organization. And so I want to thank again the people of Antigua and Barbuda for listening to us this evening, addressing some of the pertinent issues. And so we'll end this program as we usually do by sharing a few guiding principles. Wisdom is the principal thing. Get wisdom, but in all that getting, get understanding, the common sense. For wisdom is better than jewels, and all that you may desire cannot compare with her. And if any of you lack wisdom, please ask of the good Lord, who gives generously to all without reproach. And as I say, let your speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt, common sense and soundness in value, that you may know how ye ought to answer every man. It is also my belief, if there is freedom and liberty, if there is respect for each other and for the rule of law, if there is love for people, community and country, then there will be great prosperity for our nation. And in this life, if we cannot always do great things, we can certainly do small things with great love, as said by Mother Teresa. And as said by the legendary Robert Nesta Marley, the greatness of a man is not in how much money he can acquire, but rather in his integrity and in his ability to affect those around him positively. And to every entrepreneur and those engaged in gainful employment, always remember, every job is a self-portrait of the person who did it. Therefore, autograph your work with excellence. And let me leave you with my favorite quote: the heights that great men attained and kept were not achieved through sudden flight, but they, whilst their companions slept, toiled upward through the night, and great success came. Good night to everyone. God bless each of you and your families. Do say a prayer for this nation. Thank you all for listening to this program. Until next week, same time, same place, Liberty Radio 97.1 FM. Good night to you, Samuel. Good night to you, Jane. God bless all.
Drug addiction and prostitution, teenage pregnancy have taken over my land. Much too much political corruption. Talk about race only cause more confusion. Who would ever try to put all these wrongs right? Too much frustration without